how, why, when, and why it must be immediate.
Educate a woman, you have educated a nation.
The outcome of a review of the same election are being finalized.
When you climb in the pulpit, what you say matters a lot.
Have responsibility to serve the people.
Good evening and welcome to the program Insight. Today where we look at very salient issues making the rounds in Nigeria. In today's edition we'll be looking at the prison reforms by the federal government of Nigeria. According to statistics from the Nigerian Correctional Service, it tells us that Nigeria has a total of 80,461 inmates across the country, with 78,675 being male inmates, while the female inmates across Nigeria is 1,786. We have a waiting trial for male put at 53,722, while a waiting trial for the female inmates is pegged at 1,340. And the total amount amounts to as much as 80,461 inmates across Nigeria. This figure has inspired the federal government to raise a total of 585 million naira as a way of paying the fines for about 4,000 plus inmates who couldn't pay their fines and thus languishing in jails across Nigeria. A total of more than 4,000 languishing, and that has inspired the federal government to raise 585 million naira to pay these fines and so set them free. That began in Kano State on Thursday, where the Minister of Interior, talking about Olubunmi Tunji Ojo, led the Nigerian Correctional Service alongside the Nigerian Correctional Service to free a total of 150 inmates from the Kano Correctional Service. That has also inspired us out here to look at the prison reforms and the way forward. Is this the right way to go, releasing this inmates at this time of the year towards the festive period? And also looking at the harsh economic situation Nigeria is presently. Casting back to when these inmates were, convicted, and now would they be able to survive? Would this lead them to further crimes? Is another big question we'll be asking. My guest on today's edition to help us look at this very important issue is not another person but the former Nigerian representative to the African Union Economic, Social and Cultural Council. He's not a person but John Oba is in the studio to help me look at this very interesting issue, looking at it from not just the Nigerian perspective, but also from the African perspective. John Oba, nice to have you in the studio.
Thank you so much.
All right, let's look at the alarming figures, about 80,000 plus Nigerians or inmates across Nigerian prisons. Do you think this is enough reason for the Minister of Interior / the federal government to decide to raise 585 million naira to pay fines for about 4,000 plus inmates who were unable to pay their fines and so languishing in jails across Nigeria?
I thought that figure was conservative. Probably I was thinking that we have over 200.
Well, these are statistics from the National Correctional Service.
It's okay, but you know that some that are not accounted for, that are the police cells all around.
True.
And the police cells are equally filled up. So that's why I say that figure may be conservative. But looking at what the minister is doing, first I would say yes, it's commendable. But I was wondering why using the government money to pay the government.
No, now they're saying 585 million was raised from philanthropists, civil society organizations, and not necessarily the federal government.
That is nice, doing that, because to be sincere, our prison, the correctional centers are actually horrible. I've been to some of them, that of Kuje, that of Suleja, and I've been to some of them also outside Abuja, but they are terribly horrible. And
what did you notice in those prison facilities?
Well, the crowd, the facilities are crowded, right from the entrance into the centers. You see, the whole place is crowded. And you can imagine a place that is meant for 2-3 people, or at most 4. and here you have not less than 15, 16 of them there. And then you stay where you are seated, that is where you sleep, or where you are standing, that is where you can stand there for hours, because there are no space for them to move around, no opportunity for them, at least probably stretch their legs or do other things. So it's really, really overcrowded, and it should be discongested.
All right,
yes.
based on 2016 data, Lagos State was adjudged as a state with the highest number of inmates, having as much as 7,396, compared to the capacity of the prison, which was meant for about just 3,927. Would you say this is one of the factors that make inmates, when they get into this prison, they come out hardened rather than reformed?
Well, I would say that the correctional center don't have enough program to really reform some of these people that they took in. There are no programs. Those days, they take them to farm, and then they give them opportunity to learn some of the skills in the correctional centers. But now, do they even have the training centers? Do they even have opportunity that this inmate where they can get some skills, so that when they come out, they can be independent and then do some job? But I know some of them are going to schools, and some of them are enrolled in Open University. But what about those who don't have the qualification to enroll? Those ones who are probably, they were learning work and skills, and then probably they were taken in. And then there should be a proper place for training. I think that is why most of them come out, and then they go in and come out worst. And also, some of the correctional centers officers are not helping matter. Okay. Recently, I read the report where an inmate is using the correctional center officer's account to receive money.
That was what the CDS, alleged.
So you can see a whole lot. Some of the correctional center officers are also culpable in some of these things. They help them take drug in, sell drug, receive, and then they become, because of the gains they are going to get from it. So that is why you see that most of them are not properly reformed, and they come out worse. All
right, so let's look at this incentive by the federal government raising 585 million naira to pay some of the fines of about 4,000 plus inmates across Nigeria, the reasons why they are still behind bars. The policy says once your fine does not exceed 1 million, you're entitled to this benefit. Once it exceeds 1 million, you cannot benefit from this, will I say, largesse of the federal government. Do you think that's fair enough policy? Is that good enough? Do you think the federal government should do more than, because wouldn't this create bad blood even for those who their fines exceed 1 million?
Well, I would say it's going to create bad blood, because the federal government is trying to help here to discongest this. But I was thinking that the federal government should look more critical into what brought those people in there. Some of them, they are just trump-up charges. Some of them are just the judiciary. Throw them there, especially the, what we call...
What?
No, not, I mean the court. The justice system is not helping issue. Some of these people are just flimsy excuses, flimsy accusations. And then the court say, go to lock them up. And then you see a whole lot of people. At times you get there, you see some people who borrowed, someone who borrowed just 10,000 naira, and he wasn't able to pay back. And then you send him, because you take him to, and the judiciary just send him and say, okay, go and stay, lock him up. Why locking such type of person up? There are a whole lot of people that are not supposed to be locked up, that are locked up because the judiciary are not taking time to do their work very well. That is it. Especially the lower court. The lower court are seriously culpable when it comes to those that are sent there to fighting, and then you send him.
But what would you have to say as regards the judges, the lawyers who are supposed to stand in for some of these inmates who do not have the financial power to get lawyers? Do you think the judiciary is doing enough in terms of pro bono cases for inmates who can afford it? And also the CSOs, do you think they're doing enough, or their focus is more on
the judiciary cannot give you, once police takes you to the court, where we know that The judiciary, they're supposed to be, what's the name of these organizations that will stand for you? And
legal aid?
A legal aid should stand for you. But how many of them are ready to do a pro bono job? You hardly get. And some of these people, they don't have, why they are there is because they don't have representatives. And some of the lawyers that they even contacted will ask for money first. No one is ready to do pro bono because of the system of our legal, because of our legal system. They are not ready because you need to do some filings, you need to pay for some of the cases, and who is going to bear that cost? And on the civil society, yes, because I know personally I've gone out with some of the civil societies who, I know there are a group of lawyers who came together and said, okay, let's help these people. And they go from prison to prison, paying for the email they cannot pay. Some people, it's just as small as 2,000 naira, they can't pay. Some as small as 5,000 naira, 10,000 naira. These guys will come together, they paid. At a time in a Suleja prison, at least about 6-7 inmates were paid for, and they were taken out of the place because their cases were just the example I just gave now. Borrowing money and not able to pay, right. And then the judges just say go there, and before you know, they are there 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, see they are forgotten there. So these people have been doing a whole lot of job. But what I think is that we need more civil society to come into the system because this is where civil societies are needed.
Okay, let's get even for these inmates that the federal government is gradually helping. It's been said that 10,000 each was given to each of these 150 inmates that were freed in Kano. Do you think the money is sustainable? And looking at the present economic hardship we're facing in the country?
I won't say sustainable because there is no amount that is sustainable once you don't have a plan. When you don't have a plan, no amount is given to you that is sustainable. That is why bringing them out, not just giving them money to go. I was thinking that bringing them out of that money, they will have a training, skill acquisition training.
Yeah, they said they were trained before they...
If they were trained, how many days? I saw Embelembe doing some beautiful jobs, and some of those people who don't have serious cases and they were just locked up there for nothing, giving them work, giving them money to establish. That is what, and 10,000 naira can do nothing. If 200,000 naira cannot successfully set up a business, except just small, this thing, what 10,000 naira, in fact, 10,000 naira can barely take them to their places. Well, it's good gesture, but that money is too small. And I think that they should have organized proper skill training for them so that these people are empowered and then they can go establish themselves.
But let's look at the part of the society now, because the Minister of Interior, the President of Labumi, Tunji Ojo, did harp on the need for Nigerians to welcome these inmates with open arms and not make them feel not wanted so that it doesn't drive them back into crime. How realistic is the federal government being? Shouldn't they have put this set of Nigerians probably in a camp for a longer period before they are gradually integrated back into the society? Is the federal government playing to the gallery?
No. Because this set of emails that were released, I don't think their offenses are serious. Like I said, some of these people are just minor
but is the federal government not giving the burden back to the society to welcome these people and integrate them rather than the federal government putting into motion a machinery that will gradually...
There's no way. You should understand that some people have been released every time into the society that we are not even aware of. We are aware of this because the federal government is taking decision to do something. So we are not like other developed countries where your ex-convicts are easily recognized because the data is there. And when they come out mentioning of their names or giving their details, the data pop up and they say, no, this is ex-convict. You hardly know who is an ex-convict in Nigeria and who is not, except when you dig in and you get to find out. So that alone, we know that alone won't mean much to them. But some of them were barely there for 2 months. People don't know that they went in for I mean, they were locked up. Some were just 6 months and this thing. So, and Nigerians don't even care so much about you being an ex-convict. What they care about is your change of attitude, your life. You know, Nigeria can just say, okay, he has changed. Oh, he's not a changed person, good and fine. They let you in. So that is not an issue.
Okay, let's look at the security implication of this, releasing these people into the society, looking at the economic situation, the festive period approaching, the pressure that's going to be on them also to be accepted and to get back on their feet. Do you think this is going to be a very tricky one?
Well, like I said earlier, that I don't think this set of convicts,
but with what they have gone through in the prisons, making them more hardened than before they entered.
We can't. We can't said they will be hardened.
But
some will be hardened.
You painted the picture of how tough.
Some will be hardened because of that. Means that those have criminal tendencies already. But those ones who went there because they were just roped into something and it wasn't because they really committed serious issues.
Okay.
Those ones won't come back and go into crime. You understand? They won't come back and say, okay, maybe they are going into crime. In fact, I'm thinking that probably they will even be thanking God for being released. But there are some that we know, and I'm sure they will not be released. Like those who were given life sentences, like those who committed murder, like those who are terrorists. I'm very sure they won't release those type of people because those ones are already made. We know that these have already criminal and once they come out, they may likely fall into it. But if there are some also who committed very grievous offenses before they were locked up, but on the process they are changed. So definitely we may not end, but there are some being there alone, they have driven them into drugs. So I think probably those type of people we can be concerned about them.
Okay, let's look at it in terms of the inmates now in the facility. You talked about them not having the required, programs to reform them. What would be your call to, Nababa, who is the Controller General of the Nigerian prisons, and is this something he can do alone?
Well, instead of talking to the Controller General, I would rather look at the minister that what you have started, you should continue in a different way, because he is the Minister of Interior. Yes. So he should have a more pragmatic plans for the inmate. First, the prison is being discongested, good and fine. But now there should be very good, rigorous programs for them. Key accusations, just like this. Because if you look into the correctional centers, some correctional centers are so tight, such that they don't even have a space for skill trainings.
Are you advocating for new facilities to be built?
No, yes, there could be new facilities, but in each facilities, there should be a skill acquisition center. That is, it should be one of the major requirements for any correctional center to be termed correctional centers, because some of them don't have. I've been to that of Kuje. I didn't see any correctional center. I don't see any skill acquisition center there. I don't see any skill acquisition center there. And they were just logged up into a session, and you just give them some time to walk around and come back. So someone that is idle will definitely think of something to do.
Okay, in terms of agreed that they might not have programs that would help reform them, let's look at the prison warders themselves. Do you think we're having the right kind of warders to man our prisons in terms of trainings and retraining of them on the right way to, help impact on these inmates?
Well, when I said the minister should have a more pragmatic program for the correctional center, I wasn't only looking at the inmate alone. Even the correctional center's officers, they also need very serious training. Also moral trainings, and also a whole lot of this, because some of these correctional centers officers are even the problem. Some are the problem.
How do you mean?
Because immediately drug can get through you to an inmate. That means that you are culpable, you are encouraging and that. And you are giving someone to keep and to reform, but because of
the corruption,
pecuniary gains, you see many giving to these guys. Many giving, and then, so they needed to be trained. First, on morality. They needed to be trained. And also, some of them, their background, there should be background check of most of the correctional officers, because some of them also have criminal tendencies. So you put them in a place where they can relate with criminals. So easily they are influenced, easily they are corrupted. And because money is coming from it, and in fact they will even bargain with you. They can bargain with you, okay, you will need some, you want to get some amount of money, how much is my share? That's why you see them happy when there is a big win coming to them. You see, the controllers want to be in charge because they know what is going to come out of it. You understand? So they monetize every services right there. Something that is supposed to be done freely, they monetize every services. Because this is what we are talking about. They should be reformed. There should be serious reform in the center. And this reform should not just be for the physical structure of this thing. It should be even with the correctional center officers.
All right, in case you're just joining us, you're watching Insight today on Global Television, and we've been looking at prison reforms carried out by the federal government recently, where the federal government, through the Interior Minister, Minister of Interior, Olubunmi Tunji Ojo, has said that 85 million naira has been raised in order to pay up fines of about 4,000 plus inmates across prisons in Nigeria who were unable to pay their fines, and also to help the congestion of the prisons. We'll go for a very quick break. When we return from the break, we'll be looking at the figures in terms of the number of female inmates in Nigeria and the number of male inmates in Nigeria, and other factors that would probably help us decongest our prisons. Stay with us.
To serve the people. How, why, when, and why it must be immediate.
Educate a woman, you have educated a nation.
The outcome of a review of the same election are being finalized.
When you climb in the pulpit, what you say matters a lot.
Have responsibility to serve the people. To ask how, why, when, and why it must be immediate.
Educate a woman, you have educated a nation.
The outcome of a review of the same election are being finalized.
When you climb in the pulpit, what you say matters a lot.
Have responsibility to serve the people. To ask how, why, when, and why it must be immediate.
Educate a woman, you have educated a nation.
The outcome of a review of the same election are being finalized.
When you climb in the pulpit, what you say matters a lot.
Have responsibility to serve the people.
All right, welcome back from the break. You're watching Insight today on Global Television, and we're focusing on federal government prison reforms, trying to decongest Nigerian prisons. It's been said that about 80,461 inmates across the prisons in Nigeria, and a total of 53 8,722 are waiting a trial across board, while a total of 1,340 females are also awaiting trial, while 53,722 male inmates are waiting a trial. The number says that 78,675 male inmates are in Nigerian prisons, while a total of 1,786 female inmates we have in the country. Also, let's look at the issue of percentage and the number of female convicted male. We have 32% of them in Nigerian prisons, and for the females, we've got 2%. Male inmates 98%. For you, what does this? Is this a true reflection of the crime rate and what's happening in the country? 98% for the male inmates, 2% for female inmates. Awaiting trial, 68%. How worrisome are these statistics?
That's to tell you that we have a lot of work to do, especially on the male, because it seems to have crime tendencies. Most distinct. And how many?
And what do you think is responsible for if yes, the males are having?
Men is the economic situation. It's the economic situation, because the pressure of the economy have driven men into crime. Those, especially those who have criminal tendencies, who are trying to restrict, who are placing restraint instead of to. But the economy has come and driven many people into crime. You know, here in Abuja, we may not have much pressure. But when you get to the state, you give someone 200 naira, you know to him it's really valuable. It's something heavy. So people go to crime because they want to survive. They want to survive. Many have responsibilities. They have families to need to care for, and that has driven many. And also, the society seems to be skewed against the men. When you look at who are into drugs most, they're the men. That is it. So that is why you see that the crime rate in the side of men is high. So it's the economy. That's my own take.
Well, looking at the trial, the judiciary is on the spot one more time. The fact that we have as much as 68% of people are waiting trial, what does this tell us as regards how effective the judiciary has been in carrying out justice, our justice system? Would you say it's flawed? Because if you have as much as 68% of people in prisons are waiting trial, would you say there's something definitely?
That is an indictment on the judiciary. That is a very serious indictment on the judiciary, especially customary courts. The customary court are supposed to handle some of these flimsy, little offenses, but you discover that the customary court I think as if it's easy for them to send people to prison instead of adjudicating on their cases. They just okay. And to some of them, it sees as a way of punishment. Just send him. You are not done listening to his cases, and you say, go 1 week in prison. So this customary court, I've been saying it all this while that the major challenge we have when it comes to criminal cases and others are the customary court. Some of them are not. I don't know, maybe probably it's because of the number of cases that is coming to them.
Okay,
probably. That's why they just send some off immediately, and many are forgotten. And if you are even looking at the correctional, what about those in the police cell? Because the police also have a whole lot of responsibilities. Take people, because police is supposed to at least mediate some of these cases and not take them to court. But police have a lot of problem with them.
All right, let's drag you into the African continent. Now you served as a Nigerian representative at the African Economic, Social and Cultural Council. For you, do you think AU, the African Union, ECOWAS, the African body itself, has it played enough role in such instances?
Well, there are little to what African Union can do, because we are talking about sovereign countries here, sovereign nations, that we either sign or not sign. And even when they sign some of these treaties, some of the policies that African Union is trying to bring in, implementation is another thing, because most countries are always looking for the gains. And then whatever it is that they feel they don't like, they discard. Take, for instance, the African Continental Free Trade Agreement.
Yeah.
Have we implemented it? How many countries have ratified?
But there are lots of controversies about that.
Where everybody must express his own interest. You protect your interest. And that is one of the main things. You see, that is why African Union have been striving, but when it gets to the national level, the implementation is a problem. That is it. There are a whole lot of initiatives that AU is bringing forth. A whole lot of initiatives that most countries don't take seriously.
Why is the AU not taken seriously?
Probably because of the political interest. Because of the political interest. Sovereignty, independence, everybody just want to be on their own. When they look at it, it doesn't match their immediate needs, is discarded.
Okay, in terms of bringing talking about ECOWAS now, where our president is the head there, would you say ECOWAS also done enough to help to decongest prisons in not just Nigeria, but because we know there was a point where, like currently in Niger, where Niger's junta government is putting pressure on ECOWAS for sanctions to be lifted. How come ECOWAS cannot do such in order to make its member states governments, do more in terms of the congestion?
I know ECOWAS have a whole lot of policies, a whole lot of initiatives on each sector of the economy, each sector of the economy. So what that of prison discongestion is what I have not looked at, but I know there are a whole lot of policies. But if we are talking about ECOWAS, some of these regional bodies are just paper tigers, because the same person that is supposed to implement those policies is the one sitting as the chairman, is the one sitting as some of the leaders there. Okay. And at times you have to waive some of these things, because you know that the person who is there is also contradicting what you are proposing. So that is why most of this, and at times most countries don't even respect the regional bodies. Probably because that is why you see that Niger can call the bluff of ECOWAS, and Mali can also do the same, because they know that most of the regional bodies have become an appendage of the West.
Oh, very sad commentary. All right, let's shift gear back to Nigeria, and for state levels now, aside what the federal government is trying to do to decongest prisons. We noticed that even at the state level, recently we saw Kogi government, we saw Ondo CJ release 70 prisoners. Then also Masari's wife, former governor of Katsina State, also paid as much as 1.5 million naira to secure the release of 30 prisoners. For you, how would you rate the effort of state government to do this? And do you think they do this with proper background check before?
Some are just for political reasons. And the prison discongestion should not be left to the federal government alone. The state also should key in. This ceremonial stuff that governors do, once they want to leave office, they will release some this thing. It shouldn't be. Some of these people are there in the prison, not even knowing the offenses they have committed. The police just bring them, they take them, and they lock them up. I had an experience when I was much, much younger. That was 1995. I just came back from my semester break. And I got to, in my place then in Delta State, this issue of armed robbery is very prominent. And I got home that night, and my mom said, be careful, there was an armed robber day for yesterday, and the police are out. And I said,
what axis of Delta State?
That is Ughelli.
Ughelli, okay.
And I said, the police should know armed robbers now. Why? As a student then, I was very agile. That same I was told in the morning. That same evening, my friend came to visit me. And I said, okay, let me just see them off. In front of my house, we were arrested. Myself and my friends were taken into the cell.
Yeah.
It was when I got into the cell, I discovered that most of those in the cell were students. Some from the University of Abuja, Benin, some from Delta State and this thing. What were they doing? They went into the restaurant where they were drinking, and they clamped all of them into jail. What happened? They said because they said they are doing random arrest. Why will you do random arrest? In fact, with all the shout, as that time, I was bailed with 600 naira. As at that time, my dad came and paid 600 naira. Where is that money going to? And the worst aspect is that where we were locked were so unhygienic, so terrible. We were locked in a very filthy place. You see feces, you see where you are standing, that's where you will urinate. That is where you will urinate. And there's no this thing again. And the toilet was there. We were locked inside the toilet. So it was so bad that we were all agitating. Some of the students from the University of Benin happened to be lawyers. They were studying law. You know how... and one of the officers told us, she is a woman, she just came and said, this one and they make noise. You better shut up. He said, see this room. Unlicensed gum, nine full. Say, if we take two, if they take some for now, say, you people are gone. Don't be surprised. That thing she said, that is what most those people in the prison are going through, unlicensed guns, that are there in their store. She said that's unlicensed guns. Say, once they take one and say they saw it from us, they say we are gone. As at 95. So now imagine what is going on now. So many people may be in the prisons that have not committed any offense. It's just like in Lagos, they say, they just pack them and throw them into the prison. So the police too have a whole lot of work to do. The police have a whole lot of... Go to Abuja here, Secretariat, you see those that are locked in their cell. They are not accounted for. They are not part of this 84,000. They are not. And that is how they are in most of the state, most of the police stations you see. So when I say this figure is very low, it's very conservative figure. Go to the police stations. You see several people locked up, men and women.
All right, let's look at, as we begin to wrap it up, for someone like Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, who has made promises to reform the Nigerian prisons and the justice system, how important is synergy amongst the federal government, the judiciary, the police, civil society, and the citizens themselves? Would you say Nigerian citizens have done enough to draw the attention of the federal government towards what's playing out in the prisons?
I am very sure that is why the minister is doing this, because he must have had a lot. And don't be surprised, probably he had his own experience too. And this thing. So if he's going to introduce reform, the reform should be holistic.
Not just by change of name.
Not just by change of name, not just by building skill acquisition center. The reform should be holistic. The police, correctional center officers, and the structural, even the image, because if you are taking people into, you call it correctional centers, and yet there's nothing to show that they've been corrected. They come out worst. Most of them. If you do your statistics, you discover that some have been in prison more than twice. In fact, some are comfortable with prison because they know probably they have nothing doing outside. Okay. So what they know that once they are there, they will be fed. So they prefer to go out, back there. Okay,
this is a question I decided to save for the last. The fact that the federal government decided that this money was to be raised by philanthropists and the members of the public. Do you see a danger in it? Because, for instance, let's say persons who have sponsored inmates or inmates who have questionable character, for even the, let's say, insurgents, decides to bankroll this money, knowing fully well that he's persons are going to be released. How dangerous is this, especially when we're looking at insecurity in the country?
I think the minister has some explanations to make. Because in the first place, who are those that bankroll this? Who are those that donated this money? It should let Nigerians know. Because I know that many will take advantage of this. We have, there was a time that Nigeria raised an alarm that some of these Boko Haram guys were being released secretly. And who says that will not be done now? Because someone that's donated money must have a reason for doing that. Because nothing, most politicians don't do things for fun of it. They just want to, once they do it, they have their demand at the back of their pocket. So by the time they give you the money, they bring out their demand. It's very, very possible that most of the talks used during elections that were arrested will be released. It is possible that some of those people that politicians were using for their nefarious activities will be released. So that is why the minister needs to explain who are those that donated the money. How was he able to raise such huge amount of money within short time? And if the minister can raise that type of money to release those inmates, then he should raise the same type of money to build correctional ski centers for this inmate. He should raise the same amount of money to be able to help the police reform, and also raise the same amount of money to help the correctional officers. That means that the minister must be very good in raising money. Yeah.
But let's look at the Controller General of Nigerian Prisons. Would you say he has done well? Because under his tenure, we've seen Kuje break. There have been lots of prison breaks under his watch. Haliru, Nababa, we can count 3 to 4 prison breaks that occurred under his watch. And this initiative also under his watch, but not initiated by him. Is he just a figurehead?
Well, I cannot really say what, I cannot even imagine one reform that he has introduced in the first place.
Aside changing the name of...
It wasn't even the one. The federal government decided to do that. Good, probably because of the Minister of Interior at that time from Osun State. So he decided to do that. So I cannot say this is what... ordinarily, I had expected that by now he should have resigned. Because when you have the first prison break under your watch, the second prison break under your watch, the third under your watch, you should know that that is a spell of incompetency. So you should resign.
But what of the federal government that also allowed him stay put, even with all these lapses?
That is where politics plays in. That's where politics comes in. His interest. His interest. Okay, he has done this. Don't be surprised. He's the representative of someone in power. I say, this is my boy, let him stay there. So no matter what he has done, there will be always reasons. There will be reasons to always give him excuse for him. So that is it. This is the country we find ourselves, where people don't know when to stop, where people don't think about their dignity and don't think about their name, to say, okay, this has happened under me, because of this, I need to throw in the towel. Or because of this, I take some people, use them as a lesson, a scapegoat, that because there are people...
Because we actually have not seen officers...
No, there's no officer is prosecuted, nobody is taking responsibility. So we cannot even blame. Do you know that even him can be doing the best and those under him are compromised? Yes. Those under him are compromised. They will even be the one giving date, say this is how you come, this is when you come, this is how to go about it. So you can't entirely blame him. Well, because the buck stops on his desk, we can say he should take responsibility. But I don't think he has done anything really fantastic.
All right, let's wrap it up in terms of the roles of other people in the society, like religious leaders and also traditional rulers. Would you say they've done also enough? Have they contributed? Because if they rule their subjects well, their subjects shouldn't get into crime that will make the prisons get congested. If the religious leaders are preaching the right messages rather than prosperity, it's not going to put people under pressure to want to make money at all costs. There's
serious moral decadence in the society. And it's not just affecting the ordinary people, it's also affecting the religious sector a lot, a lot. You see a pastor getting involved in how many pastors have been arrested recently? Now imagine what that pastor is preaching to his own congregation. How many imams have been arrested? Now imagine what he is preaching to his congregation. So it's a total moral failure that we are experiencing now. And he takes just few people to wake up and do something.
The right thing.
The civil society organizations also have big responsibility, because this is now when we have reorientation, the need for reorientation and the need for sensitization. That you say, not just from in the society, even right from the secondary school, from the primary school, that should be, and I expect even curriculum change so that this youth can take responsibility and know that when you do this, this will happen. And that is it, because there is total moral breakdown in the society. And the pastors and the imam have great responsibility. They have not been doing enough. They've not been doing enough. I can't, this thing. So if I'm to score them, I won't even give them a pass mark.
All right, a very sad commentary as regards was playing out, like we rightly told you, based on the 2016 data. Lagos State has the highest number of prison inmates population with 7,309.6 as against the prison capacity of 3,927. So it tells you how bad the situation is as regards our prisons across the country. Followed by Lagos is Rivers and Kano, who have 4,424 and 4,183. This as far back as 2016. So fast forward to 2023, you can imagine the population boom across our prisons. So we hope that Haliru Nababa, who is the Controller General of the Nigerian prisons, alongside the Minister of Interior, Olubomi Tunji Ojo, will do the needful to ensure that not just decongesting the prisons, but that these inmates who are released from time to time are well, catered for and introduced back into the society gradually, so that they don't turn out to become another form of menace to the society and the country at large. All right, we've been talking with the Nigerian representative to the African Union in the person of John Oba, who represented Nigeria in the Economic, Social and Cultural Council of the African Union, helping us look at the pros and cons of having decongested prisons, and also the fact that the statistics tells us that as much as 78,675 male inmates are in our prisons, while 1,786 females are also in our prisons. But very sad commentary is the fact that awaiting trial for male has as much as 53,722 people awaiting trials in prison. So it means their fate is yet to be decided, but they are still locked up somewhere across the country. Very sad commentary. For the female folks, we have 1,340 awaiting trials also across the prisons. Then convicted inmates, we have as much as 25,399 males have been convicted in prisons, and why as much as for the convicted female, we have 446. All right, that's how we're going to be calling it a wrap on today's edition of the program Inside Today. We were focusing on federal government's prison reforms, how to decongest Nigerian prisons, and the initiative by the Interior Minister, commendable, but more needs to be done. The fact that he was able to raise 585 million naira and was able to pay for fines of around 4,000 plus inmates who were not able to pay their fines. And so the first tranche has begun from Kano Correctional Service, where 150 were freed recently, and a token of 10,000 are given to them as transport fares back to their respective homes. And the Minister of Interior has left a charge for Nigerians: make sure you receive this inmate with open arms, so that they don't feel not wanted in the society and return back to crime. So that's how we call it a wrap on today's edition. My name is Anthony Momodu, saying thank you for always being part of Global Television. Good evening.
and why it must be immediate.
Educate a woman, you have educated a nation.
The outcome of a review of the same election are being finalized.
When you climb in the pulpit, what you say matters a lot.
Have responsibility to serve the people.